2013 Chevy Silverado lift block installation. The reason it needs them is to level it out. It's easier to see the road. It won't blind people with my LED headlights, and it just really looks badass, to tell you the truth. I'm not a professional, but I get it done cheap. The parts were only $63.74 on eBay, and I'm sure it would cost 5 times or more to have it done. So follow my method at your own risk, and please be careful. This is my baby. I just currently got this truck. Actually, we were going to get my wife a truck, and this one was there too. I traded 2 trucks for this one, and I could have got more out of those trucks than what this is worth, but this one has a really cool camper shell, for sure. These are the tools I need to go ahead and change it. There's going to be more tools. I never think ahead of time to go ahead and take a picture after I'm all done of the tools that were used, instead of taking a picture beforehand with tools I think it might need. Look how heavy these things are. Oh, they're 25 tons a piece. They're so freaking heavy, but looky there. That's all it is. That's all a rear end lift kit does. Now, I have heard before that they do cause some axle sway and things like that, but we'll see. These are the directions. A lot of the lift kits that I've seen online, people actually mention that it gives you torque specs for the bolts. And I was surprised not to see lock nuts on the nuts anyway. So I'll just go off the factory manufactured specs. I'll probably add a little bit more because they are a little bit more heavier duty than the manufacturers. So we'll see. Let's go ahead and get this started. Oh, make sure you chalk the front tires, especially when you're lifting the back end of the truck off the ground. That'd be stupid. And always have your jack stands anytime you take and lift anything up. That way you don't get crushed by the darn vehicle. I'm going to go ahead and lift it up here with my jack. You never want to actually jack up on the cab itself. You always want to make sure you do it on the frame. See, like that. Then I'll go ahead and do the other side. That way we can work on them both at once. Now, I did actually get it to where it started to take some tension off. There is still full tension on these back tires. I didn't lift it up any. I just went ahead and thought I'd go ahead and pull off these U-bolts. You know, I don't want to take them tires off. That's too much work. All you gotta do is jack it up, right? Well, we'll see about that. Now, first off, without the chocks and all that, you don't want to loosen up your axle and take the U-bolts off while it's still sitting there. That's kind of not the best idea, you know. Although the axles do sit on the manufacturer blocks in the first place, you know, they kind of keep it in spots. They have little pegs going through them that kind of keep them in the middle. Now I go ahead and jack it up after I got the U-bolt off of it. You're about to see why you might want to take the tires off to do this. See, I was just in a hurry. I always am. That's how the back-end handyman works. I just got to get this crap done, man. So, the book did say that you had to take off the shocks. I'll sit here and I'll keep turning it. Oh, there we go. I got me some channel locks. Of course, another socket or box end wrench would probably be better. You may not round off the head of the bolt at that point. And having an impact driver does help quite a bit. Now, if there's too much tension on it, see how I wiggled it? I was feeling to see how much tension was on it and to get the bolt out. But if there was a lot of tension, I could feel that, I wouldn't take it out because it could pop and hit you. So now I got the strut or the shock loose. I'm going to go ahead and jack it up. You know, I was really thinking at this point that the did you see it move? The springs up there, how they went over a little bit? That caused me a big headache. I'm telling you right now, you need to take the tires off. I had to take the tires off. I'm just saying. You see how I got a board over there? Did you see how the axle turned a little bit? Oh my gosh, trying to get it lined back up is a pain in the booty. I'll go ahead and jack the axle up at this point. So, this is where I actually figured out, hey, it would be easier to take them tires off. Well, it only takes a few minutes anyway. I have a special lug nuts on there. I guess nobody steals them. Can't really put a lot of force on them, but boy, these suckers were tight. I've bent up the lug wrench a little bit. The tire was spinning, so I had to drop it down a little bit just to put some more friction on the tire. You can see the tires moving around. That's because it's not actually bolted onto the axle anymore. I should have loosened the tires and took them off before I even started messing with anything else. But like I said, I always get in a hurry. You see how I bump it? That right there, just putting a continuous strain on it will bend the wrench. However, I bump it, bump, 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 and that gives it a little bit more impact to get it off. You don't want to strip these out, and plus that socket isn't really all that strong. I've had these kind of lug nuts before, and it's easy to split that socket in two to where it won't grab nothing. Then you're just screwed because you can't just put a lug wrench on these things. But they do look cool. Really big tires. You know, this truck don't have a lift kit on it currently at all. It's just these big tires, man. Makes it go 5 miles an hour over what the speedometer is telling you. So I jacked it back up. Now it's time to spin them lug nuts off. Well, I went ahead and jacked up the axle a little bit to get the tires off the ground, because when I jacked it up I noticed that the tire wasn't off the ground. So now I'll go ahead and take all the lug nuts off. I use my spark plug socket wrench. And here we go. I try to drop it thinking, oh, I'll just put these lift blocks in there. But, you know, 3 inches is actually quite a bit when you look at them. Yeah, I found this darn brake line. And it was like holding the whole axle up because I couldn't get the brake line off. And really all it boiled down to was you can stick a screwdriver in there, and it's kind of like a arrow going into a hole, and you just push the ear down of the arrow and it comes right back through. You'll see it after you break it, I'm sure. I did. So I got my other jack so I could take that down and take the other thing out. There you go. I got the lift block on there now. See how big that thing is? It's only a 3-inch lift block. But yeah, having the way the truck was sitting before, it's kind of like you were sitting back in the seat. And the seat, for some reason, you can't lift the back part of the seat. You see how my being an idiot was sitting there jerking it around and it fell off. Yeah, it's holding on by that one cable right there that my hand just touched. So I had to readjust my jack, put it down there to where it'll actually lift it up enough. And this is where the headache was coming from, the drive shafts, or the axle spinning a little bit. So I got it up as far as I could. Then I went over and took the other tire off. You always want to loosen them while they're on the ground. You know, you ain't gonna be able to do it while your axle's spinning, unless you got it on park or emergency brake on. After you loosen them, then you take it off. See my nifty shirt? I made that. Alright. There we go. Ain't it so pretty? That's where it should have started off at before I even touched anything. Nope, there's a groin shot. Okay, now I'll just put you right here where you can see me mess around with this a little bit. And do the shock. You see I have the jack on there. Now it's just kind of like cupped into the axle hole right there where that is. And then it made the axle spin even more because all the force is on the front going up, so it made it spin backwards. Like I was saying before, that's just a spark plug wrench that I'm using to take off the nuts. 13/16, I believe. So, when it all boils down to it, I actually did do what the instructions say. I just tried to cut corners, and it didn't really work. And since I didn't know what I was doing exactly, I found out later that I'm going to need to do an alignment on the back of this now. There's that clip I was talking about on the other side. How it has like a little arrow in it. Yep, that cable is hanging on to the whole axle, being pulled on it. I'm lucky it still works. But hey, I was sitting there holding it and I was thinking to myself, oh man, oh Jesus, what the heck? Why did I do it this way? So I held it and I just moved the jack to where I could hold it with the jack, and of course look where it's at. Yep, you guessed it, exactly where the U-bolts go. So as soon as I put this on, as soon as I get this little cable loose right here, that is so annoying because I didn't know how it works. You stick a little screwdriver in there, which you don't put it in that way, you put it inside and it just makes it come loose. Then you lower it down. See that cable? It won't let you put in the blocks. You have to take that cable off, just like the tires, just like the axle and all that crap. See, there's a little peg that's in the center that lines them up together. And that's also why I didn't really think that I would have to worry about a rear tire alignment. And if your back tires are out of line, what happens is the back end of your vehicle will kind of go off to the side while you're driving down the road. And there's another result from that axle twisting a little bit. So I went back to the other side. I'm like, well, heck, I'll just go back over there and work on that side. That seemed like a cool thing to do. I screwed them nuts up as much as I could. Got them U-bolts on it so it would hold it in place so I could, maybe work with the axle a little bit. Because, man, it just hanging there was kind of a pain in the butt. And there I went again. I just took all the weight off of it. And all it's hanging by now is the springs, leaf springs. It's going over the leaf springs. You see that big old gap? I was just like, screw it. It's not hurting it. I'll go over here and mess with this other side a little bit. There I am. I'll go ahead and jack it up some. So I'll put them U-bolts through there. And then you put on the bottom part. And then you screw up your nuts as much as you possibly can. Luckily, they just screw on pretty easily, because those are pretty long threads. So now here we go. It's time to go ahead and try to line that shock up with the axle bracket. And I was like, oh man, I can't get it all the way up there. So what the heck do I do now? So I'll go to the other side and I'll jack this side up some. We'll see what that does. Yep, there we go. That's just gonna keep jacking. Jag. I'm actually compressing the springs at this point. And it didn't quite get down there all the way either. So I have to go back to the other side. Go ahead and put that little ball jack underneath that bracket. And I am jacking up on that bracket. That's kind of a dumb thing to do too. But, you know, sometimes you just do things without thinking about it. And then when you're in the middle of it, you're like, oh, screw it. It'll work one way or another. This is where I was starting to get concerned that I may be taking some tension off of the other jacks. Does anybody notice it takes me 4 jacks to do this? You know, if I'd have lifted it, took the wheels off, and dropped it on the jack stands, I could have only used 2 jacks. And those jacks would have been much better for all this work, because those are the hydraulic car jacks. That little red one's a piece of crap. It don't have enough hydraulic fluid in it to go very high. And this bottle jack, I don't even really think it's for cars. I used it for a house like 10 years ago or something. No, let's see. 15 years ago. I've had this bottle jack for 15 years. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, come back to this other side and jack it up some. Like I said before, I'm trying to meet up that bracket with the shock. And it's not a fun task. So now the jack's maxed out, so let's go ahead and throw this other jack on there. Right on the brake housing, the drum. Tell me that ain't dumb. You can split that drum. You never want to put, you're not really supposed to put jacks on the axle or the drums of the car. But it is my car, and I'm not working on other people's stuff right now, so if it messes it up, I'm just getting it done. I'll replace it if I break it. So y'all can call me dumb if you want. Don't really care. I'm just sharing a video showing my experience. Maybe it'll help somebody out. Maybe y'all think I'm retarded. Maybe you guys can laugh at me. I don't care. Just gonna be bumping out a lot of these videos before the new year. My channels, if they don't have 1,000 subs by January, I got better things to do. I love making videos for people, but if people ain't watching, it's just kind of a waste of time. This video with the editing and everything, I don't think I'm gonna be putting the words down there anymore. I'll just do the voiceover thing like I'm doing right here. So now here I am, and I'm going to go ahead and tighten these U-bolts up. When you start to tighten them, you want to make sure that the threads are about even on all 4. You know, you don't want one sticking out like 2-3 inches and the other one sticking out 1.5 on the other side. You want the brackets on the bottom to go pretty much flat, even with the axle. That way the springs can press down evenly instead of crooked. And I did 80 pounds torque. Manufacturer specifications say 70 pounds, but these are bigger U-bolts than the original. And when I was watching the lift kit forums and stuff like that, they were talking about how a lot of them have higher torque specs on their bolts. So I just figured these are a little bit bigger, so I'll add about 10 foot-pounds of torque. Make sure it's foot-pounds and not inch-pounds. Inch-pounds definitely ain't enough. I don't even remember what socket that is. It's like 15/16 or something, I think. Yep, I can see it right there, 15/16. And it's not the right size for them nuts. Like I said, this is Backend Handyman. I'm just getting this stuff done, man. Then yeah, I mean, you really should do it like one so far, and then the other so far, and then the other so far. You know, do them evenly as you're going up so there is no caulk at all in that plate. But I'm going to have to realign this back end. See, I wasn't aware that even with them studs going through them blocks, that it could still be off a little bit. And I did tighten the struts or the shocks back, those bolts. I did those at 70 pounds. Because they were pretty much the same nuts and bolts as the U-bolts. So why would you change manufacturer specifications from one to the other? This is the other side. We went ahead and got this all fixed up and tightened. The videos are so long. Just doing my thing, man. Just doing it all. So I went and took that out of there, which was holding it up for me to put the U-bolts in. Now I get to put the tire on there. Now these are 33-inch tires, I think. Something like that. That's why it sits so high. So they're pretty heavy. I found a pretty easy trick to getting a tire on. Of course, you always got to try to manhandle it there. Get mad about it. Yeah, I got it on there, and then I noticed, oh, it needs a spacer on there. So I had to take it back off, put the spacer on there. And then this is how I do it. I set the tire on my feet, and I lift my feet up to line it up. That way I'm not having to pick it up. So now just go ahead and run all these lug nuts up real quick. Not really supposed to use an impact socket on the tires. I'll go ahead and run it all the way up. And what I usually do is I'll run it up, and then after I drop the vehicle, I will take and hand tighten it with the lug wrench. But you always do crisscross patterns when you tighten the tires, lug nuts on a tire. Because if you just tighten it from one side to the other, it might caulk your tire to where it's not all the way on there. And as soon as you start going, guess what? Your tire is going to pop into place, and you'll have 2 or 3 loose lug nuts. And that's never a good sign. It's got 6 for a reason. After I got the tires on, I went for a drive. And this is just me showing that I'm checking them all again to make sure that they're still tight. Because you know, after you go for a drive in a 2-ton truck or 1-ton truck with all the weight on it, it might move a little bit. So you always want to double check your work after you get it out on the road a little bit. Do all the U-bolts first, so I don't have to change sockets on both sides. Jeez, that would suck. I would say, so far, I'm pretty pleased with this lift block. It made it to where I can see the road as we're driving down the road. Before, it was like you'd sit back and you were pointing at the sky, so it's hard to see the road. Because the seat, for some reason, the back end of it don't lift up, and you're like sitting back in the seat. Now it actually points you down to the road. Now I can see the lines on the road, man. And something else with it, it has really, really bright LED headlights. I've tried to tint them with 5% window tint, and I have quite a hard time doing that. I was going to make a video of doing that, but I couldn't ever get it smooth. Headlights are really hard to tint. And considering all the tint that I do has like little spots where you can see through the window. See these clips? You just put it in there and you push it down onto it. Now in the side of that, there's actually a little spot you can stick the screwdriver to undo the clip. I did not know about. Luckily, I did not break the clips, so I'm all right.
Hey, Dad.
Just push it down on there and then it's all good. So you take it and double check all your lines. Make sure you didn't break them or anything. This is what she looks like when she's all done. It's more leveled out. You can see the road. I like my truck. It's a pretty truck. But subscribe, because now I'm going to have to do an alignment job on the back because they're all crooked. But anyways, that's what I got. Ain't she pretty? Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, ring the bell for more videos.